Hello, everyone, and welcome to Summit Esports stream for tonight. We have a best of three ready to go for you all. It is going to be the Disco Spiders versus BLS Better Learn Spanish. Today, my name is Ferris, and I'm joined on the casting desk by Sunny. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am okay. Lost all my LP, got some of it back, then lost it again. You know how it goes. But I'm just looking forward to seeing these two teams face off and just seeing like the two different shot callers on both teams, like play a game of chess uh, against each other, trying to have their teams, come out on top. Obviously, it's a pretty important game for both of the teams here, with their place in the standings. Then it could possibly determine, obviously there's 2 more weeks, but it could be a huge impact on whether they make it into playoffs or if they do not.
Yeah, so it's sort of getting to the end of that regular season there, and middle of the pack teams, or sort of middle of the pack teams in the standings. When you have these last few games, they become very important for your placements, as you have mentioned, Sonny. And you said there's two very good shot callers on either side. So you know a little bit more about these teams than I do. Can you tell me and everyone else watching a little bit more about these shot callers and why they are so good at shot calling, and will we see more of a macro based game because of that? What are we looking at here?
So for Disco Spiders, then they have Solpan, who is a Masters jungler, right? And obviously, being a Master player means that you're going to have a very good understanding of the game in general. But him being on the jungle role, having the most, like allowance to basically just do whatever he wants, um, just like having all the agency in the world, right? They just picked him, the Jarvan, game one, like B1'd it right off the bat. I think that's a great decision for them, for such a good player in who's going to be trying to run the entire game, right? And then for BLS, they have Boise, and he is actually unranked right now, but that's mostly probably because he thinks that solo queue is extremely taxing on his mental health, and I don't blame him. Um, they are a huge fan of giving him a like later pick in the draft, try to give him um, like the most agency as well. They don't want the enemy team to be capable of shutting him down, because him being on a champion that has agency is going to allow him to turn all of his calls into, winning plays, right? Obviously, like the Rakan, super strong engage. They also paired it with the Maokai. So Wujin being like such a long-standing veteran of the league, and also just like having played league for so long, I think that, although pretty sure Solpan has um like outmatched Wujin on like a peak rank, I don't think that it's going to matter all that much when it comes down to shot calling, because I think Wujin does have the game knowledge to get to a rank like Masters and like match Solpan's peak. I just don't think that he plays enough to do it.
Yeah, we all sometimes sit back and think to ourselves, why did I play all this solo queue and what is it doing to my brain and my mental well-being? I certainly have had those thoughts, so definitely not a cold take on that one. So we have Soulpan is the mastermind here for Disco Spiders, grabbing that Jarvan, very powerful pick at the moment. Going to be something that you'd want a very talented player like your jungler piloting in the game. We have Seraphine and Senna here, B2-3 for Disco Spiders. Jinx, Maokai, Rakan, you talked about an enabling champion. Well, Rakan is probably the best in the game at doing that. Peel, utility, initiation, engage. Put that in the hands of a shot caller, and not only can they call the plays, but they can make them happen. This is something that will be very effective for Better Learn Spanish as long as they can utilize it nicely. Also, with the Orianna locked in here on R4, you can put the ball on someone like the Rakan, go in there with a grand entrance and combine that with the Shockwave for massive team fighting capabilities. And we talk about late game too. Jinx, who has been recently buffed on patch 13.20, making her way back into the meta. This sort of identifies that scaling there for Better Learn Spanish. And then on B4 and 5, Malphite and Silas are going to be the last lock in here for Disco Spider. So now, Sunny, that we see the full picture here for this Disco Spiders comp and soon to be the Better Learn Spanish comp. Are you surprised at all about these picks? Or these certain picks that these players like to play often? What are your thoughts on these drafts?
I think that the Disco Spiders draft makes complete sense for the way that they want to play the game into BLS, right? BLS's bot lane is better than Disco Spiders, so they pick two champions that are able to disengage, able to kind of sit back, clear waves, get XP, farm up, right? They're only focused on scaling. Their main priority is trying to scale into the late game, into these team fights, which is what both teams definitely have uh, more of like a identity in is these late game team fights, and having the Silas and the Malphite being able to enable the Jarvan, enable the Silas, right, for um, Pyrosis, who's probably going to be the main carry when it comes to this early game, right? They want all of the gold going onto the Silas pick so that when he does pick uh, up an ultimate like the Maokai, like the Oriana, like the Rakan, whenever he goes in, that he is able to just one shot the Jinx or the Oriana. Because on the side of BLS, they have kind of the same thing when it comes to scaling bot lane, but kind of opted out to try to disengage a little bit more on the rest of the map. They're definitely leaning towards the 5v5. They don't want as much scrapping in the early game from the looks of the draft. Um, Obviously, the damage profile of that three-man unit on the top side of the map is not going to be as high as Disco Spiders. And obviously, all of this just comes down to execution. So we'll have to see how both teams play it, the vision games that both supports will be able to play. Obviously, Woojin is on the Rakan, very strong roaming. I definitely expect to see him having a large impact, making the 3v3s into a 3v4.
Yeah, and it seems as if, like you said, both compositions do well in the late game, but it seems to me that the Better Learn Spanish composition is a little bit more reliant on the AD carry. You have the Oriana for damage. It will be Dandy piloting this champion. But, I mean, come the later stages of the game, the Oriana isn't completely reliable to deal all the damage that you need. So it's more of a, like you said, disengagement. You have Maokai, Nature's Grasp is very good at protecting your carries. Play for that Jinx late game and just play Protect the President. Dr. Mundo, a fantastic frontline champion to soak up as much damage as possible. While there's a little bit more agency here in the Disco Spiders composition, Senna isn't necessarily the hyper carry like Jinx is, does scale just as well, but you have more damage dealing champions that can really start to take over fights like the Silas and the Jarvan with the Spear of Shojin Gore Drinker build, which I'm sure Soulpan is going to itemize into. It's very OP right now, has been for quite a while. And then they have the utility with the Seraphine. So both of these teams are late game oriented, but they sort of want to get what they want done a little bit differently. And like you said, Sonny, all comes down to execution. And with everything picked up and ready to go, I think we will take ourselves into a short little break. And then once the players have picked their champions and after that spectator delay goes away, we'll be bringing you game number 1. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back here for game number 1 of the series between Disco Spiders and Better Learn Spanish. Ferris here, joined today by Sunny Blues. If you're just joining us, and we're on to the Rift for game number 1, we got a little bit of trading back and forth between Dart Juice and Soulpan inside of the jungle, but it looks like it's going to be a standard 5-point start for both teams. No one's looking for any cheeky invasions, trying to get themselves a first blood before those minions even spawn. And we're going to be getting into this game. And Sunny, you ready to go?
I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised by nothing happening level 1. I think that the only two really good level 1 abilities are actually on the Senna, or yeah, the Seraphine and the Rakan. I guess the Silas E is actually a pretty good trading tool as well, level 1, seeing that in the mid lane. But I am actually kind of interested seeing Soulpan pathing bot. I do think that the Senna Seraphine are not like a weak combo. I think that they have a lot of poke, they have a lot of CC, especially for 2 ranged champions. So I do hope to see him pathing, towards mid, towards that 2v2, because I think it's going to be
Oh, we see
very crucial.
heavy trading here in the bot side space. We're getting down super low, and it looks like that last Rakan Q gonna finish off that kill. So we have first blood here for Better Learn Spanish. Boys is able to pick that one up, and already advantages in the bot side was the quick level 2 that caught the Disco Spiders bot lane off guard. And so first kill, it didn't go over to Nightmare on the Jinx, as we actually have, oh, here comes a replay, as we actually just got into a pause there, but here's that 2v2 once again.
So Space Murph just did not quite properly space on the Rakan W. He was right on the edge of the hitbox, and the kill did go over to Boise on the Rakan, which is not ideal for the side of BLS, but I mean, he gets tier 2 boots faster. I think that's pretty big.
And that's always the argument with supports getting first kills, and if it's so bad or if it's actually quite good. The faster boots can be very impactful, so we'll have to see how the Rakan uses that. We see an invade here, Soulpan and Pyrosis. This mid-jungle duo here for Disco Spiders, burning the flash of Dark Juice and getting the kill as well. That is how you want to do it, utilizing their mid-jungle power there, the priority from Pyrosis there in the mid lane to get inside of that jungle and punish the Maokai. That's an excellent start inside of the jungle for the Disco Spiders, and they get one back. You actually see a grand entrance here. Root lands. Those are the chompers onto Plants and Poros, who has to burn the flash. So once again, Better Learn Spanish bot lane putting in work down there. We see lots of action cross map.
So obviously, in the top side play, they did trade 2 flashes for 1 to secure the kill onto Dark Juice, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. They both have mobility of their own that are able to be used as escapes, not just as engages. And then obviously another flash was burned in the bot lane for the side of Disco Spiders. So I do expect to see a gank coming in soon from the Maokai on the bot side. I think that
Well, we're going to see a gank here in the mid lane. Flag and Drag lands, and Dandy burns the flash, but guess what? Pyrosis uses the abduct right in the path in which Orianna burned her flash. Dandy will drop in the mid lane. Soulpan, a successful gank here for the Disco Spiders. Second kill onto Pyrosis in the mid lane. And you said it, Sunny, this is the lane that Soulpan wants to target. You have Senna, Seraphine, they're pretty good on their own. Malphite, just a tank against another tank. There's no real value to get from there. And this is the lane that the Disco Spiders jungler has targeted, and so far, so good for them.
I mean, Pyrosis has been infamous in the league for being this hyper-aggressive player who's able to back up his aggressive playstyle with extremely strong mechanical capability. So I think that it only makes sense for Soulpan to be camping the mid lane, and I do love to see him actually executing on it, not just having it be, like in theory, like we see sometimes in some of the games. I think that right now things are looking very good for the side of Disco Spiders. We see that the Silas is already 700 gold up with the 2 kills, right? Even in CS, that's fine, and probably lost a little bit of XP whenever he roamed, but I'm sure that he got it back whenever Dandy was killed. And I mean, he's already up 2-0. That's not every single team that plays against Pyrosis wants to keep him down, because if they let him up, then he's going to be able to carry the game, or he has carry potential.
Absolutely. And yeah, 2-0 start for the Sylas. You leave your lane to go for a play inside of the jungle with your own jungler, but if you get a kill out of it, it's always going to be worth that little bit of XP that you miss out on. And Sylas can be a champion that can absolutely run over games in the mid game if given the right resources in that early game. So 2 kills onto Pyrosis is a fantastic start for the Disco Spiders, and a flashless Dandy in that mid lane could spell reganks here for Soulpan on the Jarvan. And so Dandy has to play a little bit careful. Maybe Dark Juice might spend some time around the mid lane as well to try and make sure that this Orianna is not punished further. But I'd like to see Disco Spiders abuse this lead that they have even further. Continue to look for invades. Punish this Maokai as best as possible. Do not let Dark Juice get rolling at all inside of this game. And then come the mid game, you get Gore Drinker Shojin on your Jarvan. You have a Sylas who's far ahead. This can be something that's absolutely going to be pivotal here for the Disco Spiders and can really win them the game.
And Soulpan actually did the Doran's Blade on like the first back tech that has been, obviously the patch has only been out for like all of 48 hours or so at this time, and basically AD junglers oftentimes on their first back will actually choose to build a D blade, and even some AP junglers will also build a D ring, because the stats, like the value of the item is so high for the stats that you get from buying the item. And after the jungle changes on everything that you're losing as a jungler, then it allows you to kind of like combat some of the laners a lot more. It helps you sustain in the jungle a lot more. It's just been a, not really insider tech, it's just been a very common thing that high tier junglers have been doing.
Yeah, so this is the first time in when you've broken it down that I've heard about this Doran's start or Doran's first back strategy here in the jungle. And so Soulpan taking advantage of the new tech that's being brought up in the new patch of League of Legends. And like you said, jungle nerfs. Junglers need to find a way to sort of combat those deficiencies that they might face after patches come through. And it seems like the Doran's Blade purchase, their first back for Soulpan, is going to be the solution to that. It looks like Better Learn Spanish was trying to make a play around this dragon. They do have priority here in the bot side, so they could look for that, but the problem is Pyrosis is always going to have the first step from the mid lane down to that dragon pit as long as they're inside the lane controlling it. Dandy now has flashback up. Soulpan looking for maybe another gank. I think Dragon is definitely on the cards here for Disco Spiders as well, so if you can find a play beforehand, that will definitely give you the advantage heading into that neutral objective fight. Soulpan on a ward, going to clear this one away. Top lane been quiet, as we expect it to be. 2 tanks there, sort of a gentleman's agreement. We'll wait and play for the team fights. We'll get as much grasp procs as we can until that sort of mid to late game comes by. But now we see Soulpan on the Chemtech Drake. Gonna move off of it though. Gonna look towards the mid lane here. And potential gank about to come through as they wait in the brush. Actually, we see, so Dark Juice actually going to make their way into the lane here. There's the Twisted Advance onto Pyrosis. Combine that with the Shockwave, but the flash away. Pyrosis escapes the Super Mega Death Rocket, not able to finish off the kill. Dark Juice going to flash away to get out of that Cataclysm. Survives with that very sliver HP. And no kills going over to either squad in that very dicey exchange. It got close. Pyrosis almost dropped that 150 gold bounty, but able to walk away from it. Nice and easy. And no deaths were suffered from either team. Flashes burned from both mids as, wow, Injustice getting so close to the solo kill on X-Ray there. Those cleavers are hurting the Rockman, but not going to bring them down to lethal damage. And that'll be that.
And I mean, now there's just 2 flashes blown on the side of BLS to the 1 flash blown on the side of Disco Spiders. And it's just like so difficult to try to 2v2 for the side of BLS when it comes to like the mid jungle matchup. It just feels so impossible, especially now that Pyrosis has his first item completed and he actually opted out to go with Night Harvester. So Night Harvester is commonly a jungler build or a support Sylas build, because it just offers very high burst, but it doesn't give you any mana regen, which is kind of what you want as a mid laner, right? The support has their support item, and then the jungler has like the ambient mana regen increase from being in the jungle. And I am kind of interested to see how Pyrosis is able to manage his mana bar, especially later in the game when he's able to spam abilities like just like constantly. Like all of his abilities are on like a 4-second cooldown. So if he's like clearing waves on a side lane or something like that, then he's going to be able to just like one-shot them by using all 3 of his abilities. But I think that that is going to cost a lot of mana, you know, in like the long run. So I don't know how.
Here we go. Quickness onto 2 there, grand entrance. That's going to be the encore there from Plants and Poros to disengage, and Boys is rooted up. Nature's Grass going to find the root onto Plants and Poros. Space Burp now going to use the ultimate. Nightmare Super Mega Death Rocket does not have the damage to finish off the Senna there. Space Murph lives, and there was actually a teleport that came through. I think it's Pyrosis making their way down towards the bot side. Gonna try and maybe use the Abscond Abduct here onto Nightmare, who does have Flash, so they should be okay, but it's actually going to connect. Nightmare, you certainly have to burn the Flash. Now going to do so. Super Mega Death Rocket, one that was heisted, lands, and Space Murph on the left side of the fight gets that last auto attack to finish this one off. But are the Disco Spiders done just yet? Pyrosis Abduct onto Boys there. The dive is through, the slow dive. A little bit of help there from Space Murph. The assist is in, and that's more plays going over to the Disco Spiders. So Nightmare punished there for not flashing that Abduct immediately, and it results in 2 kills for Disco Spiders. They make the counterplay.
And here, you really just see Pyrosis like, man, I TP'd for this. I have to get something. So he does actually chase all the way into the enemy jungle, and I mean, he just one-shots the Jinx, so it does work out in his favor. And I just love to see the high aggression from his gameplay. I probably would have just been like, all right, they left. Plays over, right? I guess he just knows stuff that I don't. Or he's just greedy. I can't decide.
Yeah, well, when you commit the summoner spell like the teleport, which is on such a long cooldown before it becomes unleashed, you do feel the need to get something done because Dandy's pushing in the mid lane, gonna deny you some minion gold and XP. 10 CS lead for the Orianna inside of the lane, but you remedy it by finding yourself a kill. Pyrosis is 3-0. Is now Sultan getting involved here in this bot side. Remember, Nightmare has no flash, so could fall victim to a Jarvan combination the Flag and Drag is dodged away from, but you can't dodge the point and click Cataclysm. Abduct from Pyrosis finishes off the kill. Encore from Plants and Poros wasn't really needed, but the insurance was there nonetheless. And that's another kill going over to Disco Spiders, punishing that immobile 80 carry with no flash. They now summon up that Rift Herald that they secured in a previous play and should be able to knock down all of the HP of the tier 1 in the bot side and claim themselves first turret.
So this is exactly the scenario that you do not want to see if you are BLS, right? They already were ahead in the bot lane, but the lead that Disco Spiders was able to obtain in the mid-jungle matchup has already spilled over into the bot lane, so much so that they lost their mid-tier 1 before 14 minutes, accelerating the scaling of the Senna, of the Seraphine, and obviously the J4 was able to pick up that gold as well. I don't think it's a bad champion to have gold on, especially going into the mid-game, and Pyrosis may be caught.
Could be in trouble here. The Shockwave plus the Nature's Grass and Dark Juice goes in with the Twisted Advance, but Pyrosis lives. They didn't have enough damage to take down the Silas, but the Super Mega Death Rocket from downtown. Just as I say that, the Caster Curse is there. Shut down onto Nightmare. That gold that they got from the Silas will be huge in accelerating this Jinx.
And here you just see him being a little bit too aggressive without having knowledge of where the Maokai is on the map, and here he's just like thinks that he's out, so he starts channeling the recall right as the Super Mega Death Rocket comes onto his screen. That timing was comical, I must say.
Yeah, it happens. You're always casting these players and saying what they're doing, and you think they're out, but they're actually not. You think they're about to get a kill, but they actually don't. The Caster Curse is inevitable. I'm just sort of here to say, oh well, it happens. Pyrosis falls, Nightmare gets the kill. And so into the mid lane does the Rakan and the Jinx go. That's typically the way you want to play it. You send your mid laner over to a side lane, pick up that solo XP, and let your jungler or your AD carry stay safe inside of the mid lane, but that's not exactly what's going to happen here to Nightmare, trying to get that healing from the Rakan, but it's not going to be enough to stay alive. Boyce is now the next target here for the Disco Spiders, grouped up as 4 in the mid lane. Soulpan and Pyrosis once again proving to be a deadly duo here for the Spiders. And that kill that Jinx just earned for themselves, Nightmare, that's just been shut right down as they get that kill back. And they're right back where they were, about 3,000 gold in the lead, and now looking towards their first Drake of the game, and that will sort of even up the Drake score as we head into a pause.
So I do think that there's actually a world where Nightmare and Boise decide to either try to freeze bot as hard as possible and just try to focus for the next few minutes, right? Give this second dragon, focus on the next 5 minutes of giving or getting as much gold as possible, but they do choose to try to fight for the Drake stacking, being in the mid lane, but it's a very short lane. You're right next to bushes if you're in the middle of the lane, right? It's definitely within the engage range of the J4, and I even think that it might have been a play that they could have done is just rotate top, right? Rotate the high prio, the wave pushing ADC to the half health turret on the side of the map that the enemy team isn't going to be, because they want to get this dragon, right? It's an objective on the map, right? They want rotations, they want this cloud dragon. Obviously, having third dragon spawn is not a big deal for either side. And hopefully the map doesn't break. I'm pretty sure that they did fix that patch through like a hot fix.
Oh
But they
yeah, I know
do,
what you're talking about.
yeah, they do opt out to send Nightmare and Boise mid again, try to play for this Herald, the third objective, or the fourth objective on the map. And we'll have to see if they're able to try to kite this one out, or maybe make their own proactive play on the top side.
Well, Injustice is going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Not going to get CC'd up by the root. Space Smurf has to flash away from the Nature's Grasp, which does land onto Soulpan, who's also caught up with the Chompers. Has to burn the flash to try and get out of this one, but the flash is forward. An excellent unstoppable force from X-Ray will save their jungler and set up 3 kills for Pyrosis. It's a huge shockwave from Dandy, but it's not enough. The quadra kill is here. Could we see the pentakill? The super mega death rocket secured the 4th kill there for Pyrosis over on the backside. The root from the beat drop doesn't land, but there's the encore. Give him the penta. Gets it, Pyrosis. What a play from the mid laner of Disco Spiders. And that is exactly what you want. You've set up your Sylas in the best way possible, from 2-0 in the early game to now 10-1 in a pentakill. That's the best you could ask for.
I mean, they just all clustered together right in front of X-Ray's face. Like, that was such a great timed ultimate, right? Holding it until he knew, like, oh yeah, we turn right here, right? Kind of X-Ray making the decision for his team. This is the moment that we turn this fight. And I mean, BLS is not stopping. They're already sending another TP because they want to fight again.
Yeah, the TP here from X-Ray to sort of match Injustice's TP, but this play will sort of fizzle out into just a trade of summoner spells. And X-Ray, inside of that, is the unsung hero, like you mentioned, Sonny, for that pentakill from Pyrosis. It looked like Soulpan got caught out there, which he did, but the last kill, or the last little bit of damage, wasn't able to come through to finish that one off, as now Pyrosis getting aggressive in the mid lane. Taking some damage here from Nightmare. Has to be a little bit careful. Here comes the quickness from Boys, but that doesn't actually land onto Pyrosis, so the CC's not there. Nightmare not able to pick up this 600 gold bounty, waiting on top of Pyrosis' head. Attention building inside of that mid lane, but X-Ray back in that play, waiting for the perfect moment, not wasting it right away. Finds 4 people with the unstoppable force. That gets Soulpan to safety, and that sets up for an absolutely insane wombo combo. And now the game really is just flipped right up on its head. 12-2 is the kill score. 4,000 gold in favor of the Disco Spiders. They summon up the Rift Herald inside of that mid lane. They're looking to blow this game wide open and really just try and snowball this to a victory, because they are in the driver's seat. They do not want to let the other team scale.
I would like to point out that in the 1v2 that Pyrosis took onto Nightmare and Boise, it's, having played so much Sylas myself, so much of his damage is on his E2, right, his apprehend. I think that if he lands that there, if that wave is not in his face blocking the stun from going through onto the Jinx, he actually just one-shots her, which is like absurd. at this point in the game. Like he's already building Death Cap, and you see how much damage the Apprehend
Yep.
just did onto Dark Juice, right? It just did like 400 damage or something like that with the Night Harvester proc, and
Yeah, and
oh,
that's gonna be it. Cataclysm, Abscond, Abduct. That little bit, that heisted Nature's Grasp finished off the kill onto Dark Juice, who almost escaped with a little bit of HP, but not gonna be so lucky. You're exactly right though, Sonny. Yeah, the Abduct damage is unbelievable. Then you can combine that with your Q damage, point and click W, and you just one-shot people. It's true. You see it all the time with really fed Sylas players. And Pyrosis, look at the build, too. 2 needlessly large rods just itemizing straight into that Rabadon's Death Cap. But it also has a Hextech alternator in their back pocket as well. So maybe not, actually. Maybe going
I
for
think
the Shadow Flame.
I think what happened was he had the alternator. I was not paying attention. He probably built the alternator first, or like the components for it,
Right.
and then he got the pentakill, and he was like, "Well, I
Might as
might
well
as
go
well
for
just
Rabadon's.
yeah,
Yeah,
I might as well
yeah.
just build the death cap now." Um, I mean, if you have the gold for it at this point in the game, I don't see why you wouldn't. Right? It's 20 minutes. He has 2 items like of stats, um, just like raw stat power, and we're going to see how much or what item he's completing right now. And I mean, he's almost has 10k gold already. And yeah, he just outright bought the death cap after getting those 2 kills on the boss side of the map. Then he had enough gold. And
Yep. And X-Ray could be in some trouble here, but this is not really your priority target here if you are better learn Spanish. And here comes the re-engage. Dark Juice has been evaporated. Now Pyrosis joins the play and picks off Injustice. Dandy trying to finish off X-Ray over on the left side of the fight, but into the backline goes Soulpan, Cataclysm onto 2, and Space Rift's there for the follow-up, picks that one off. Pyrosis finishes off Dandy on the left side. A little bit of I guess, a desperation play for BLS. It blows up right in their face. 5 more kills go to the Disco Spiders, and Baron is coming up next.
I mean, at this point in the game, obviously, I did not see all of the fog of war that BLS had going on to the Malphite there. I think that they just had enough time to actually burn him down, either misjudging where the enemy team was or how much damage they actually did to the Malphite. And personally, I think even if they were able to just blow the Malphite ultimate, sorry, I'm like half burping, half hiccuping right now. I think that even if they just ban the or blow the Malphite ultimate, and then try to like kind of like reset tempo a little bit, right? Clear waves, get everything pushed out again, and then try to control vision around the Baron again. I think that it's still a potential look for them, right? They're by no means weak. Obviously, Baron did get buffed, so it does take longer to clear. But with them being wiped there and having the Baron go over to the side of Disco Spiders, then they're going to claim the 3rd dragon, which is their first Infernal Drake. And obviously they're 5-man Baroned up. They're going to have prio on every single lanes. And now it's purely looking for damage control from the side of BLS.
Yeah, and you really don't have a lot of options when it comes to damage control. You're gonna be sieged. You don't really have a choice about it. You can't contest inside of the lane. Soulpan's just gonna go right forward. I mean, you don't really have a front line. Like, look at this. Like, Injustice is top lane right now. Who is gonna tank up right now? Dark Juice is way too squishy. Only a Demonic Embrace on this Maokai, so you really just have free reign to siege this tower here. And then Injustice and X-Ray still duking it out in that top lane. It gets hard. You have to try and stop this push. I think if I'm Disco Spiders, I'm putting Pyrosis solo in the side lane and just having them pull 2 members to the side lane, and then you siege 3 members up from there as the fight will now ensue. An excellent heisted Nature's Grasp 3-man Cataclysm there from Soulpan. That's the first 2 kills of the fight for the Disco Spiders. The Jarvan gonna try and flash out of that, gonna lose their life, but I think this is going to be the fight and the game. Injustice, you pulled up to the fight a little bit too late, buddy. Your whole team is gone, and now you are tasked with the 1 versus 5 base defense while the enemy team has Baron and a 12,000 gold lead. So good luck, Injustice. What are you going to do? Okay, throw the briefcase and watch your base crumble in front of your face. That's the unfortunate situation. 23-3. This is going to be the end of the game. The Disco Spiders, an absolute stellar performance there, winning the game through mid, and that was just lights out from there.
So unfortunately for the side of BLS, that they actually have a substitute jungler as well. So it makes it a lot harder to deal with such a a star player from the side of Disco Spiders being Soulpan. Um, I'm like Dark Juice and Dowsing both play, like these like large team fight tanks with like really strong ultimates and things like that. And it does mesh the playstyle, but it's a different player. It's adding somebody new to the mix who is not a, like a frequent player and somebody who's frequently in comms with all four of the other players. So I do think that it probably disrupted the play a little bit. And I mean, if I'm BLS, I need to draft a more aggressive bot lane. I don't think that they can afford to be drafting something like the Jinx. And I think the Rakan's a good place to start, right? If you want to draft Rakan again, do it. Absolutely. I think that you need to ban the J4. I think you need to draft Rakan. The Orianna pick is really solid, and we're actually already in draft for game 2, which is awesome. Um, I think the Orianna was a fantastic pick for the side of BLS. I think that the Maokai also is really strong. I do think that he's not as high on the priority list anymore now that the jungle changes happened. I'm pretty sure Maokai out of all of the tank junglers was kind of hit harder than the rest of them. I don't think that he has as much like constant sustained damage as something like an Amumu. Um, I don't think that he has as much like single target damage as a Sejuani or a Zac, right? Has larger or like more constant AoE damage to deal with some of the camps. And I'm hoping to see potentially a different jungler. I don't think the Maokai is a bad pick. I'm hoping to see a different ADC from the side of BLS and probably a different top laner. I think the Mundo pick was kind of odd in the sense of like all he's gonna do is like run at the enemy squishy champions and auto them and like slow them and hope to do enough damage to kill them before either he's burned down or his backline dies.
Yeah, so you need to sort of change a few things up. I like your assessment of draft a stronger early game bot lane that can actually contest earlier on. If you play for scaling, you have to survive the early game. And what happened in that game number 1 was the Disco Spiders absolutely took that early game lead and ran with it. You can't let that happen if you're going to draft a team that looks for those late game power spikes in. The Mundo does scale quite nicely, becomes a super tank that's quite unkillable. Jinx, we all know how powerful Jinx can be. So it didn't really work out this time, but they might actually just say, well, that was just an unlucky game. Let's run it back. I think we can fix it up in game number 2. They might change it up a little bit. We'll have to see when we actually get into the draft. It looks like we're pretty close to getting in there, but I think what we'll do is until it actually begins, we'll cut to a break and return when the game 2 draft does begin. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon with the draft for game number 2 between Disco Spiders and Better Learn Spanish. Welcome back, everyone, for the draft here for game number 2 between the Disco Spiders and Better Learn Spanish. In game 1, it was an absolute slaughter. We saw the Disco Spiders find themselves a lead for their mid laner Pyrosis, and he just absolutely popped off in the game. We saw a pentakill, we saw a lot of damage. Today, if you're just joining us, my name is Ferris, joined here on the casting desk here by Sunny. And what do you think, Sunny? What kind of adaptation will we see here for Better Learn Spanish in game number 2?
I mean, we just saw Disco Spiders pick up the Jinx B1, so I think that is right. BLS is going to draft an early game bot lane, a bot lane that's going to try to do what Pyrosis did last game, get the early lead, transfer all across the map, right? Look to get the pentakill for the ADC rather than the mid laner on the side of Disco Spiders. And they draft the Samira, and like I had pointed out during last draft, they do like giving the counter pick to Boise as like they will literally give him R5. Like I've seen them do it before. They'll do it again. I don't think that any of them mind. I think that the R5 support pick is extremely strong. And with the Syndra pick, then Disco Spiders, Brahms is a really good pick. I do like the Braum into the Syndra. He's able to block the entire ultimate from the side of the Syndra. And when it comes to support picks now, I'm thinking something like the Blitzcrank, like a Nautilus, maybe even a Rel, would look really good for BLS, and obviously the Rakan would look really good again.
Yeah. You need something as aggressive as possible if you're going to play Samira. Samira is basically just the female Draven. You need to win your lane. You have to play as aggressive as possible. You need to snowball. Otherwise, it will blow up in your face, especially so playing against such a late game oriented champion like the Jinx. You can exploit it in the early game. And your assessment was correct, Sunny. They pivoted into a early game bot lane choice. And their supportive choice, you talked about potentially saving the R5 support there for Boise, but they actually end up picking the support on R3 as we head into the second ban phase. Alistar is probably one of the strongest supports in all of League of Legends right now. So tanky, provides great setup, especially for a champion like Samira with her passive, can maintain that knockup from the pulverize and use it to find combos quicker. This spot lane can be very lethal. I also think Syndra can pair nicely with Samira as well. Scatter the Weak provides that little bit of CC for her to utilize her passive and get in range for fights. But then on the other side, you mentioned this Sunny Braum, fantastic disengaged champion. Glacial Fissure finds a ton of value. Shockwave from Orianna can be a pain as well. The goal so far for Disco Spiders based on these first 3 picks is just kite out your opponent. Don't get hit by a Scatter of the Weak. Don't get one shot by the Unleashed Power. Don't let Samira get that S rank to go into a 5-person Inferno trigger and get the pentakill that Pyrosis got last game. Just try and stay safe. It's sort of like a contrast from last game. The Disco Spiders this time are playing for late, and they're going to be the ones trying to hold on. We're Better Learn Spanish. They got to get it going early.
I would just like to say I want to see the interaction of abilities. Syndra looks to one shot Jinx or Orianna. Braum jumps in front of them with shield. Alistar headbutts them away. Syndra ults. I want to see it. All right. I really want to see that interaction just because I think it would be a highlight reel moment for Boise. Um, and definitely extremely tilting if you are the one getting ulted from the side of Disco Spiders.
Yeah, you could have that really annoying interaction with the headbutt, just ruining all the plans of the Braum with the Unbreakable Shield. You can't save your AD carry or your mid laner anymore. So we see more initiation drafted here for Better Learn Spanish. They're opting in for the Sejuani, whereas on the other side, Disco Spiders, they're going for the Vi there on B4. And Ornn will round out their composition. So it's kind of interesting. They have like this late game scaling comp with lots of peel, and then they have a Vi, which is like, it's funny, but they do need some engage. I mean, Ornn with Call of the Forge God can work, but Not necessarily the most reliable of engages sometimes. A simple flash can get away from that ability, but what you can't flash away from is a cease and desist there from the Vi. And so this could be a tool to get picks onto the Samira and the Syndra. Mordekaiser going to be the last pick on R5 for Better Learn Spanish. So that looks like more of just a counter pick for the top lane, a champion that can really abuse the Ornn in the 1v1, can put people into the death realm with the ultimate, but for the side of Better Learn Spanish, they have such a forward team composition. They are looking to initiate and wipe the fight in an instant, or they don't wipe the fight in an instant and they all die. It's sort of like sink or swim.
I do think that looking at drafts, I think that Disco Spiders has a much easier execution of the draft, right? Once level sixes come around for the 2v2, I think that they are so strong, right? Vibe presses are Orianna tosses the ball on her, right? It's extremely easy to execute. And with how Sulpan and Pyrosis showed that they're able to play around each other last game, I think that is going to be a very lethal combo for the mid laner and maybe even the jungler of BLS. And if everything goes for the side of Disco Spiders like it went last game, then it's also going to turn into something lethal for the ADC of BLS, right? I think that if Disco Spiders plays it how they played it last game, they have a very good chance of, hard sweeping the game, possibly even harder than they did last time. I think that they have much better team fight tools this time in the carry champions of Jinx and Orianna than they did last game, right? The Silas, very strong duelist, not too good of a team fighter until he has a team fighting ultimate on him. And I mean, now Pyrosis, the star player who wants to carry the game, has the team fighting ultimate, the team fighting tools to try to win these 5v5, these larger skirmishes.
The players have been set up with the champions and they're looking to execute here inside of this game. Yeah, Orianna for Pyrosis can do mean things inside of the team fight with the Shockwave. And just like you said, Sunny, the mid jungle duo, we saw how effective it was in game number 1. The Vi and the Orianna can do wonderful things. Cease and desist into the Shockwave could be very powerful, could make the life of a Syndra or a Samira hell. But that is going to take us into the spectator delay for game number 2, which means we will cut to a quick break before getting into that game. But when we return, we'll have it prepped and ready for you. So don't go anywhere. We'll see if Better Learn Spanish can bring us to game 3 or if it's a 2-0 sweep for Disco Spiders. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 2 between Disco Spiders and Better Learn Spanish. My name is Ferris. I'm joined by Sunny. If you are just joining us for tonight, we had a Game 1 victory for the Disco Spiders in quite the dominant fashion. Looking for a bounce back is BLS. And very soon, as the minions are spawning, the teams are getting ready to get it going. We'll see if a series equalizer can be found.
And we do see both teams just kind of 5-pointing, a little dance battle going on in the mid lane. And it's kind of to be expected. I want to say every single one of the champions, with the exception of Braum, kind of needs the like level 2, level 3 uh, abilities that they'll be able to pick up to actually like look for any start to a fight without hurting something like their jungle clear in these two junglers. So not surprised to just see like very calm level 1 before minions are on the map.
Yeah, don't want to completely coin flip the entire game off of one play. That's always my favorite thing inside of solo queue is when my teammates are insistent on a level 1 invade and then it blows up in our face and suddenly it's 4-0 for the enemy team. Not going to be the case. I mean, they could have gone for an invade. The Samira can benefit from that, but boys on the Alistar very weak. Level 1 doesn't have access to the headbutt. If you do have access to headbutt, then you don't have the pulverize. You're just going to send someone to their safety. And so, yeah, we're going to see it just start out here as a 5-point start. I want to pay attention to this bot lane because you need your Samira to get value inside of the lane. If it's stalled out, then Space Murph on the Jinx is always going to be happy here. So Boise and Nightmare going to have to get things done. Might get some help there from Darkjuice, who did start up on the top side, so we'll potentially be pathing down to that bot lane. But the same thing was done there for Sul'Pan, who does have the benefit of the blue side clear, so already going to get onto the chickens. But looking like, actually, instead of that, maybe looking for a mid lane gank here. The pathing from Sul'Pan is odd. No, just going to go for the ward there inside of that brush. And the Vi will get involved here in the bot side of the map. We'll see where the Vi wants to go.
I do like what Boise did whenever he hit level 2. He tried to, and I don't think it worked. I think that he was just off on the range, but he actually ate a turret shot in exchange for headbutting the Jinx out of experience range from one of the minions that was about to die, that Jinx was not able to walk up and auto attack. So I do like to see just like those small little attempts for like, you know, just like a small victory. Obviously, if you get enough of them, then they're going to add up to a very large differential later in the game. And I do agree with you on seeing BLS needing to be proactive in this bot lane. And I mean, we already see Darkjuice, he skipped the camp to be here, and Sul'Pan doesn't know.
Sul'Pan does not know for the moment. Going to start up on this Scuttle Crowd, but in goes Boys there with the headbutt pulverize. That's found onto Plants and Poros. In goes Nightmare with the follow-up, but the Unbreakable Shield is able to mitigate so much damage. There's the stun, followed up with the Permafrost, but now the bot lane of Better Learn Spanish has overextended. First blood to Sul'Pan on the Vi, and now the rest of Better Learn Spanish is on the retreat. Boys is going to drop as well. Give the kill to Space Murph on the Jinx. It's a disaster for BLS here. They tried to go for the play, it was close, but they overextended, and there was Sul'Pan there in the river for the counterplay.
I mean, they just have such a small go timer.
We actually sealed.
Whenever they're
1v1 in the top lane is getting really close. But keep going. I think that just fizzled out, but we'll keep our eye on it.
Yeah, it's such a, like a small timer.
Oh,
you say that and they immediately flash.
It's the caster curse. I'm telling you, there's going to be the searing charge, but the last Q from Injustice finds the solo kill, and that's going to be Better Learn Spanish getting something back on the top side in the cross map.
So the timing on making this play happen, right? They know that Sul'Pan's there, and they do decide to go for the laners of Disco Spiders rather than trying to, you know, like fuck up and like fake a ward, right? To try to potentially cause Sul'Pan to go in onto the Alistar, which I think would have been probably the most optimal play. I don't think that going for even the Jinx maybe would have been rather risky to try to do. I do think that she ended up flashing forward there. to try to get a kill, but obviously watching the replay, that's not what I was paying attention to. Um, I do like to see them trying to make this play, and all that I want to see from them now is to not be discouraged. They still have the damage, they still have the CC to one shot a target like the Jinx, not necessarily like the Braum. It's very difficult to kill the Braum, especially once he's able to get his E up. He's able to reduce damage of all incoming sources from whatever direction, even if it is melee damage.
Yeah, Plants and Pearls very tanky on that champion. Able to survive for a long while, but will he be able to do it 2 times in a row? Now, no flash available. In goes Nightmare, pops the W and gets that kill. And so, yes, they were not discouraged. They find a kill for Nightmare on the Samira, and they're able to trade one back. So that's exactly what you want. Dark Juice getting involved once again inside of that bot lane. They know exactly where they want to play to, and they were not discouraged by the earlier failure. They get 1 kill back.
And I mean, the kill credit goes exactly where they want it, right into the Samira's pocket. And obviously, I was saying that I would want them to be making their target choices a little bit better, but they do find Plants and Poros caught out and far enough away from tower that they are able to get the damage onto him to actually burn him down. But I mean, it did take a while, and
Soulpan is caught out here inside of his own jungle, but does not have flash to get away. Nightmare gets a kill for themselves inside of the enemy jungle. Flashing forward now with the Wild Rush. Now has access to Infernal Trigger. Pyrosis is just sitting on the very edge of that ability. That last Q not able to finish off the kill, but it's a 2-0 Samira, and Boise going to headbutt away Plants and Poros on the Braum. And this is more kills going in favor here of Better Learn Spanish. They're bringing it back, and they're feeling pretty good, looking towards Drake #1 off the back end of this play.
And that's just extremely, unfortunate for Soulpan to be caught out like that. I don't think that he expected to be invaded there, obviously, and now we see
a fight here. It looks going to be a smite fight. The Super Mega Death Rocket claims the dragon. This is an absolute disaster for Better Learn Spanish. It's an excellent collapse from the Disco Spiders, so they lost that first play in the jungle, but then off of the resets, it looked like Better Learn Spanish did not reset after the play. They decided to get greedy and try for that dragon, and it was close, but in the nick of time, Soulpan gets inside the pit. The dragon is taken away by the Jinx ult, and the kills go their way.
That's a level 4 Sejuani who built Boots Negatron Cloak, which I do think is probably the play for, like, general speaking, but it's still extremely squishy. It still takes a lot of damage from a Cloud Dragon of all things, and with level 6 timers coming out for the Jinx, for the Vi, for the Braum, right, it's not a very easy look.
We see a 1v1 here in the top side. Once again, into the Death Realm goes X-Ray, who did pop the Call of the Forge God, commits the flash to get away from Injustice, who did not have access to the flash for themselves. And so that's going to be a sufficient escape for X-Ray. But hold on to your horses, because we got a lady who's not on a horse, but on a pig heading up to the top side. X-Ray trying to finish off that last little bit of damage. They're out of mana. Dark Juice misses the Arctic Assault, but I think this will be enough to finish off the kill. There's the Permafrost. X-Ray's a tanky boy, level 8 to level 5. Dark Juice, can you finish off this kill, my friend? That last gonna miss. Gonna try and find the last auto attack. One more Arctic Assault. No way the Ornn gets away. Are you kidding me? Dark Juice, that's so unfortunate, my friend. Not able to get the second Arctic Assault. They're missing a lot of abilities, but it's a testament to X-Ray's sidestepping capabilities. Gets themselves away from what could have been a scary situation for the Ornn.
I can just hear X-Ray's voice just going like top gap, top gap, top gap as he walks out of that. Like, that is just so unfortunate for the side of Dark Juice. Obviously, he used a lot of time that he could have been using to hit 6, and here you just see him just barely miss that second W off of vision from that bush in the top lane, and he does flash forward, but I mean, he's Sejuani and he's built only defensive items. He's not going to do very much damage with his auto attacks, and it's so little damage that X-Ray actually turns back and gets the grass proc really fast to heal up a little bit, because he healed as much damage as he was dealt from the Sejuani auto at this point in the game.
Yeah, so we see an engage here from Soulpan, going to be knocked away from with the headbutt, but Nightmare right now is completely one-shot before they can get the S rank and pop the Infernal Trigger. Dark Juice is going to follow. That's a nice pull from Injustice. Boys is here to join the fight. Going to have to flash away from the Chompers. This is a fight going all the way of Disco Spiders. Can they find that last kill? Soulpan sacrifices themselves to pick up an extra kill onto Pyrosis' Oriana. 2-0 is the Robot Lady, and this is a fight win for Disco Spiders. I wanted to point out that Space Murph was just sitting in the bot side when Nightmare moved up to the mid lane, just farming away, getting lots of solo XP, and now more kills going their way. This is just a huge advantage for Disco Spiders right now.
And here, you know, like there's already a one-shot onto, or a near one-shot happening onto the ADC for the side of BLS. And I mean, being down your ADC, I mean, you're on the back foot, right? That's basically your entire forward moving damage from the side of BLS. And I mean, we just need to see Nightmare not getting engaged on. He cannot be the first person to die in these team fights, or it's going to look extremely doomed for the side of BLS. It's going to be so difficult for them to do anything if Nightmare is being the first target to die from, or be the first target to get one shot by the side of Disco Spiders. I think that if the top laner or the mid laner for the side of BLS die first, I think that is completely winnable because it's a Samira, right? Even a Samira that's like even or maybe like a little bit behind, sometimes, you know, Samira just pentakills, right? It's just like the nature of the champion. And if you're Disco Spiders, you have to keep the Samira down. And I mean,
Boise, you're playing with fire here, my friend. Gonna pop the Unbreakable Will to dodge or sort of reduce the damage from the Call of the Forge God. Into the Death Realm goes X-Ray, who's gonna be fine. Super Mega Death Rocket! Boom! It's the splash damage onto Dark Juice and finishes off the kill onto Boise. Are you kidding me, man? So many kills from this ability in both games. Is Glacial Fissure now gonna be flashed away from Plants and Poros? Gonna find themselves between enemy turrets, but gonna be able to walk this one off. That was quite the interesting dive attempt. Didn't work out the way that I'm sure BLS had imagined it working in their head. They lose their support there on the top side from a nice cross map all from Space Murph. Soulpan, Implants, and Poros on your mini-map are clearing away that second dragon. It's going to be that Chemtech Drake. And yeah, like you said, Sunny, you really just have to make sure that your Samira is engaging upon a primary engage from your Alistar or your Sejuani, and if not, that's really not getting the full value from your Samira that you want. She can't be the first target here as we see another fight. Boise once again caught out inside of the river, dropping the Ignite onto Pyrosis, but they're big chilling right now. The Scatter the Weak blocks away that Vault Breaker. Is Nightmare having to flash cleanse away in the bot lane as well. This is just disasters all over the board. And once again, we're seeing the early game presence of this Disco Spider squad is overwhelming.
I will say that I think that they do have a habit of kind of turning up the pace, or like they just like wake up later in the game, kind of playing around these like later game team fights. They're a team fighting team, hands down. That's what they kind of specialize in. They run these extremely nasty death ball comps that kind of just want to like move forward and only move forward. And I think that seeing how the laning phase has gone, and I mean Dark Juice just melts to the damage on the side of Disco Spiders, and I mean that's full Radiant Virtue completed for Dark Juice. Like that's so much damage that is actually being put out from the side of the Disco Spiders two-man unit of like Pyrosis and Soulpan, right? They both have a completed item, and to Nightmare's credit, he does have a completed item and a whole BF sword on top of that. So I don't think that he's weak by any means. And I think he's actually going to go like the no boots build. I don't know if you've seen that.
Actually, See a fight here between Space Smurf, Plants, Poros, Dandy trying to put the unleashed power into the backside of Space Smurf, but that does quite literally no damage. Dark Juice trying to follow up on this play. The Zap not going to finish off Boise. Flash away from the Sejuani to get out of this play. A nice Super Mega Death Rocket from Space Smurf finishes off the kill onto Boise. Plants and Poros picks up the kill onto the Sejuani. 15 minutes into this game, it's spiraling out of control. And yeah, I mean, like you said, all that damage being dealt onto Dark Juice there, that's just because of that level discrepancy. We'll see this play once again.
And I mean, he does get the ult off, but he just did like absolutely no damage because of the Guardian and the Locket coming through from the Braum. And I mean, it's a mage getting auto attacked by a fed ADC, but
well, that's exactly the play that you want if you are better learn Spanish. So that was 900 gold plus 600 gold that just went over to Nightmare. So 1,500 gold in total. That's going to be a huge surplus for the better learn Spanish 80 carry, that both the shutdowns going on the person that you want them to. So if they find setup just like that, Samira, like you said, Sunny, can absolutely pop off in this play. And they're not done yet. They found 2 picks in mid lane. They rotated immediately to bot. Good map pressure. Pyrosis has Splash available, has Shockwave available. Are they going to be able to outplay this? Look at that damage onto Boise. So you can't really walk up to this Orianna because she will sort of rip your face off if you get too close. Dark Juice is going to be the next one to go up. Glacial Prison will go wide, but the Scatter of the Weak will be flashed from Pyrosis. Continues to run. This is the Great Escape. Look at your minimap. Shockwave going to be used onto Dark Juice. Going to try and get away with the teleport, and it's not going to work. The Arctic Assault will cancel that summoner spell. Boise, you have to be so careful because Pyrosis is continuing to dissuade, continuing to try and buy time, but they just don't have any teammates around them. Scatter of the Weak will go wide. Dark Juice goes down to 30% HP. Pyrosis is fighting for their life, but in the end, it's not enough. Unleashed Power will finish off the kill. Another shutdown going into the hands of Dandy, but the tower was traded on the backside.
it was so much time. It wasn't just the tower. They killed Herald, took it mid, and killed the tower with it, right? And I mean, that sequence of events that just happened, it is just so absurd. So real fast, I will point out, like, earlier I was going to comment on Boise's Alistar gameplay, right? Has a very high tendency and like a talent for finding flanks that we saw in his mid play, securing 2 shutdowns for his ADC, right? I think that if he's able to find these flanks onto team fights, onto the crucial members of Disco Spiders, onto the Orianna, onto the Jinx, right? I think that they can definitely pull this into a win. And obviously it all starts with getting those shutdowns, with, you know, obviously chasing Pyrosis how they did is probably not the optimal play. And I mean, at this point, they're actually just deciding to push mid instead of take the dragon, right? They want to get an objective bounty, right? They have objective bounties available. It's a lot of gold that's able to come by for just a tier 1 tower, right? And now they have inside track on mid lane. I mean, they can't really contest from the side of Disco Spiders.
Yeah, and now a fight kicks off here. Space Smurf's going to be engaged upon. Nightmare gonna flash forward and finish off that kill with the Blade Roll, so it's 5 versus 4 for the moment. Injustice has been knocked into multiple people. Plants and Poros trying to survive underneath their tower. It's a 3 versus 2 in the mid lane as the rest of the members of Better Learn Spanish are behind enemy lines, and that's going to leave Boise and Injustice there as the sacrifices. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Disco Spiders. But the thing is, the kill onto the Jinx is huge, but the play isn't quite done yet. Soulpan gets over the wall, trying to look for some type of engage. Scatter the Weak will land. Vault Breaker being channeled. They're not going to be used. Dark Juice, Dandy, and Nightmare will get out with their lives. I'll hold my breath for the moment because the Sedge is under the tower, but here's the replay.
So I do like seeing Nightmare punish the Jinx there. Unfortunately, X-Ray did TP behind so that he's grouped up with his mid laner, with his jungler. So they are able to take the other, or the backside of the fight that ELS did not fully commit down past the tier 2 tower. From like on the enemy side of the map, obviously I think that it's a little like crazy being like, all right, we're going this deep. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing having Nightmare go on a solo mission like that as well, because right, it is more gold onto the primary carry. You don't like seeing more gold go onto really anybody on the side of Disco Spiders, right? They're already 6.5 or like 5.5k ahead. Um, and especially considering that all three of their potential carry champions are extremely strong. They all kind of have, you know, a rather fair split of gold. Um, when it comes to like thinking about like, all right, who on our team's fed? Well, everybody. Who's on BLS's fed? Only the Samira. So one shot the Samira, and right, the fight should be won. For Disco Spiders.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you can have as much gold as you want if you're better learn Spanish, but you have to find the right setup in the fight to get Nightmare to really pop off. It's sort of it's a different style to Jinx, where if you have a fed Jinx, Jinx can just sit in the back line, and whatever happens, as long as you're keeping people at bay, you're just hitting them, cutting people down one by one, front to back. Samira is a different champion. You have to get into the fight and get your S rank, pop your Inferno trigger onto as many people as possible. And if you can't kill anybody, after you go right in, you're gonna die. So it's a little bit of a harder execution here for Nightmare, but it can be that devastating if you can find the correct opportunity. So they're getting something back. They're winning a little bit of fights. Dandy could be in trouble here. Vault Breaker being challenged. Soulpan flashes forward, goes into the cease and desist, and that's going to be combined with the Shockwave. Dandy disappears off the map, and now the Glacial Prison will miss. Soulpan and Pyrosis are now being collapsed on by 3 people, and Justice has joined the play with the teleport. It looks like Soulpan going to sacrifice themselves for the greater good of their mid laner's life. Nightmare now joins the play. The shutdown for the Sejuani. Dark Juice finding their first kill of the game. And they might just continue this play onto Pyrosis. They're continuing to walk forward, but now they start to pace backwards on the opposite side of the map. X-Ray was putting in that work in the side lane, takes a turret as a trade, and we see cross-map plays being made here from both teams.
So I do like seeing the force onto Dandy. Obviously, they do not have the deep vision that would make it the optimal play, being like, all right, we know for a fact that there's nobody in like walking distance to try to punish us for this, and they do end up getting Dandy's flash, trading Soulpan's flash for it, and Pyrosis did have to flash in that play as well. So it's like 2 flashes for 2. Actually, I'm pretty sure I did see Boise flash in front of a VIQ there, and with Baron on the map, right, the next dragon is spawning in less than a minute. Those are crucial resources that might determine the outcome of the entire game, right? It is Hextech Soul right now. So with 3 dragons already stacked for the side of Disco Spiders, getting this Hextech Soul with a Jinx of all champions, with an Orianna, right? That's just more damage for the Orianna burst, more, you know, like a little bit of burst onto the Jinx, more kiting capability, more chase capability. Really don't want to see, if you are BLS, right? You do not want to give this soul over. They are about to all in 5v5 this fight.
And this is the critical mass of the game right now. You have the soul coming up here for Disco Spiders. They want to get this, and better learn Spanish. They're going to contest. If they die here, they not only lose the soul, but they will lose the Baron as well. Call of the Forge God comes through, but it's blocked by the Blade Whirl here of Nightmare, but they're locked up inside of this choke point, and Justice will send Plants or someone into the Death Realm. I think it's Pyrosis, but now the fight does ensue, and into the choke point goes everybody for Space Murph to just unload into everyone. That's a triple kill, not a triple kill, a double kill split among the top laner and 80 carry of the side of Disco Spiders. And like I was saying before that fight broke out, that means Hextech Soul for the side of Disco Spiders, and it also means some turrets and maybe even the Baron if they decide to rotate their way over there.
Yeah, personally, I think that if they actually chose to full commit 5 people immediately mid, they could have ended the game with the respawn timers that were happening. Obviously, like, it's a 24-minute Dragon Soul, so they've been taking dragons like almost right off rip every single time during this game. And with resets not coming out quite yet, then
now we see an engage here. Pyrosis going to absolutely one-shot Boise, who tried to find the engage there. Soulpan looks like they're going to die there on the top side of the fight. Going to go golden to trying to sort of delay a little bit there. Pyrosis trying to run away with that movement speed. Nice sidestep on the pull from Injustice. Gets themselves to safety. X-Ray is playing the macro game, ladies and gentlemen. Every single time their teammates are on one side, he's on the other, knocking down some turrets.
And that would have been the most disgusting Ornn ult, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all 5 people were in that choke point, and I mean, they backed up to try to either kite out the fight a little bit, kind of get all 5 members of Disco Spiders in one spot before they tried to find an engage. But with the TP coming out from X-Ray, then there is a large threat kind of left Samira using one of her resources for the counter of the Ornn ultimate, and I mean, they're just making a Hail Mary play at this point.
Yep, they're going to try and start up that Baron. Glacial Fissure going to kick off this fight. That's a Shockwave onto 2. Look at the damage from Space Murph. Completely untouched in this fight. Oh my goodness, that Jinx is completely unlocked in this game. It's just a grouped up team, and those rockets are dealing lethal damage. Combine it with the Super Mega Death Rocket. That's probably the world record time for an ace that I've seen in quite a while. That's going to be the Baron, and look at the positioning of Space Murph. Could potentially go for the end as well. 7 seconds on Boise. We'll see if they're able to get that one done, but nonetheless, this game is looking pretty well done in Dustin.
I do think that it was... Obviously, it's just like a desperation play from the side of BLS, right? But the unfortunate thing is that they're not really getting anything in these fights, right? You see that Jinx is still 3k ahead. Their Pyrosis is like absurdly ahead of the Syndra, and you see the fight play out again, right? The 4-man ultimate, or I guess 3-man because Injustice was in the Death Realm. So, you know, it would have been 5 if the first person didn't die and Mordekaiser hadn't pressed R. So I mean, X-Ray's ultimates this series have just been absolutely on point, finding multiple people every single time. It's just absolutely absurd.
It is, yeah. It looks like that Call of the Forge God. It looked like as the Ram sort of frolicked through the enemy team members, it like sort of sucked them all up like a vacuum cleaner, and it was just like goodbye, 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 and they all just got deleted as the Ram swept through the fight. It was actually quite satisfying to watch. You just had Injustice there, avoiding it from with the Death Realm, of course. But yeah, the team fighting here, X-Ray's been a great player for the side of Disco Spiders in this game. We're about to get the final fight of the game kicked off here because certainly it's going to go the way of the Disco Spider. Space Murph goes into the Death Realm, Call of the Forge God, rips down onto 2, Dark Juice, and Dandy. Soul Pan flashes forward. The Jinx won the 1v1 in the Death Realm against the Mordekaiser. Not something you see every day, but something you see in this series. 32-11 is the kill score, soon to be 31 if Dark Juice can't make it back to the fountain. And that's going to be the case. The ace is picked up from Plants and Poros. The Nexus will explode. It's a 2-0 series. Disco Spiders, game 1 and 2 were dominant.
I mean, that was just... Obviously, the standard game has kind of been lengthened because of the recent patches that have happened, right? The lower value in stats that dragons are giving you, and also the decreased value of the turret plates. So they are slightly longer games, but with Disco Spiders playing so aggressively, having so much agency in both drafts, and also like the early macro to back up that agency, then they're getting so many... Like, that game was an absolute bloodbath. Same with game 1, and game 1 ended with so many fewer kills than game 2. I do think that BLS did adjust their draft rather well to try to combat Disco Spiders and the way that they wanted to play. I think that Disco Spiders just executed it properly and at a higher level than BLS did.
Yeah, the execution was there. The teamwork was there. They played a fantastic early game. They were able to translate their leads into something more, and they were able to get the game to a state where the other team, that being Better Learn Spanish, could not come back from, and they had to go for very desperate plays that did not end up working out in their favor. It was a dominant series, a dominant 2 games, an excellent showing from the whole squad of Disco Spiders. Congratulations to them on their 2-0 victory. And for us here at Summit, that's going to be the end of the broadcast, the end of the series. But we hope everyone who is watching from home did enjoy the stream. For the casting desk tonight, my name is Ferris. That was Sunny. We all wish you a very good night, and we'll see you in the next stream.